So hi everybody, welcome to the SAP Press Book Club. And today's book is, you ready for this one? It's the SAP S/4HANA Conversion Guide. So here we are, nice and thick, y'all will love. So I have three guys here who wrote this huge technical book. And again, I'm Kendall. I am the host of the SAP Press Book Club event. And so we have Bert, Nick, and Mark. So I can't pronounce their last names, which is hilarious. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. So let's try Bert. Bert, take it away.
My name, okay. So my last name is Vanstechelman. I know it sounds terrible, but that's the way it is. I've been doing SAP since a very long time, since 95, if I'm not mistaken. Been always as a technical consultant. I had my own company, which was a technical company, which finally merged with Expertum, of which I am the CEO as of the beginning of this year. Expertum is both a technical and a functional company, so we do the A to Z implementation, meaning we take the customer all the way. We are with 175 people and active in 4 countries. So we are active in Belgium, in the Netherlands, and Slovenia and Croatia. And that's it.
All right. So Nick, what about you?
Hello, I'm Nick Mahieu. I am part of the I am leading the supply chain team at Expertum as a community lead since last week, in fact. In my career, I started in immediately in SAP. I've always been in SAP as a functional consultant. My main focus functionally is PP and the other functional modules, let's say. I'm in Expertum for 5 years now, I'm mainly working on S/4HANA projects, S/4HANA studies, trying to help the customers in preparing their roadmaps to go to S/4HANA in one of the different flavors, let's say.
Perfect. And we have Mark. Mark, who has the job I want.
All right. I'm Mark Mergaerts, also very hard to pronounce. Right now, I'm enjoying retirement. So I worked with SAP and for SAP part of the time between 1995 and the end of last year. Before that, I used to work for Hewlett Packard, so I've got about 40 years experience in software consulting, 27 of those with SAP, and also more than 20 years working together with Bert. I joined his outfit when there was only 6 of us, then moved with him to Expertum when the 2 companies merged. I was a basis consultant specializing on the one hand with things like systems management, database management, performance, but also a very important area that I've always covered is upgrades and migrations, which explains my participation in these projects, in these migration projects, and also my being a co-author of this book. So that's me. Probably last time you'll see me because I no longer do any useful work.
Too funny. All right. So now that we got the gang all here, so I found this so very interesting. I think everybody here will as well. But the first paragraph of your book, so SAP R3 was released in 1992. Okay. So some people still use R3. So then SAP ERP was released and R3 version released in 92. So the functionalities were added on over the years, and then R3, and then for just one release, R3 Enterprise, and now it's called SAP ERP. However, the core remains the same. So these guys are still using technology from 1992. Some of it.
Yes, they do. So basically, R3 was released in 92, that's correct. And it has changed names every now and then. So I heard you mention enterprise and ERP. There was even the name ECC. I don't remember when they used that one. But
Yeah.
to be honest, it always has been the same core. So they built functionality, they built new features, new applications, but everything was built in the old core of '92. So yes, that's correct.
Isn't that amazing? I don't think people realize that
I
they're.
don't think so.
Yeah, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So, you guys are talking about how do we get these companies that are still on ECC, or as they call it, SAP ERP, moved over to S4. And everybody's talking about there's brownfield, greenfield, hybrid, bluefield, mixed field, whatever field, can you guys kind of like give us a quick rundown of what are these three different ways of going? And you guys are focusing on what?
So who takes the question? Because I know myself, I will be talking for an hour.
I can take it. In fact, what we always try to do when we start talking with a company is really to understand the context. What is the situation of this SAP landscape? You have companies that have been very well structuring the way they approach implementing SAP over the last 20 years. You have companies where it might have been a bit more loose, let's say. So that we try really to understand. We try to use the tools that are available to really analyze, and from there to come to let's say, a best way forward. And that will always be some kind of specific recommendation taking into account the context. If you are a very, very big company, supply chain integrated all over the world, it might be very difficult to really start from scratch, which is then the greenfield option, let's say. If you are maybe a smaller company, you did not do a lot of custom developments, you really have everything well under control, then maybe it's not so difficult to go into a greenfield option, even considering a public cloud greenfield implementation. So,
don't you think that some of these companies that are so over customized, that some of them are like, gosh, we put so much work into this, I don't want to just like throw it away. I mean,
I think that's a very good question. And most companies will go for brownfield or conversion, just to make sure that they do not lose all the inventions that they did over the years. On the other hand, it's if you're using an application since '92, starting from scratch might be an option as well. But it really depends on the customer situation. The problem with the brownfield, the advantage of a brownfield is that you take everything which you have built to the new release. But that's also the disadvantage. So it works both ways. You take everything which you have built during all those years. The advantage of the greenfield is that you can start from scratch again. Now, in our experience, a greenfield takes more time. Because in a greenfield, it's starting from scratch again, and it's like going to your business and saying, what do you want?
It's a business transformation at that point.
And that is full business transformation, and that takes much more time. So we've seen companies do, depending on the difference, the choosing between brown or greenfield, in my opinion, has nothing to do with SAP. It has to do with the company. Where are they in the transformation, and what do they want to achieve? And so we've seen companies choosing greenfields while we knew that the brownfield would be easy doable. But they decided otherwise because they wanted to use it as a transformation. So it really depends.
Well, can't you also kind of like just do brownfield on something on one landscape and then do green on another landscape and then try to mix them up later on?
Then you would know, yes, you can. That would be transformation for companies who have multiple SAP ERP systems.
Yeah.
We've seen that as well, companies who have been buying other companies over the years, but never managed to integrate everything together. Those companies could think about doing a brownfield on their major system, and then integrating the other systems in that converted system moving forward. And yes, we have seen companies do that as well.
A lot of stuff going on there. So now let's talk about how do you choose a scenario? I mean, there's so many different scenarios of, I mean, so you think it's mainly based on company, what their landscapes are, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's an important factor. And then, of course, yeah, you need to look to what is the strategy of the company, what do they want to achieve, what is the plans on IT for the years
their
to come.
IT?
Sorry?
How big is their IT department? Maybe everybody
how
quit and left. I mean,
Yeah, indeed. How much support is there in the business really to have a transformation successful and to take quite some change at one moment, or really to do it in an iterative way? That's really something we really try to understand and talk through with our customers. And then from there, yeah, it's a lot of talking, drawing pictures. If we do it like this, understanding the dependencies, because yeah, it's mostly also hybrid landscapes. The days where you have only SAP, certainly if you go to bigger companies, that's not there anymore. So you also need to understand, for instance, what is the plans with the Salesforce, if they have Salesforce, or with the APO system. So it's, yeah, you need to have some kind of holistic view and then have a well-documented decision.
So what's the end date of support?
Oh, that's approaching very fast, 27.
I know. So we've got, what, a couple more years here to get everybody moving. And do you know that I heard that there are over 7,000 globally and about 4,000 in the US that have not moved. That's a lot of people, a lot of companies.
That's a lot of companies.
Yeah,
in my opinion, you can extend to 2030 with extended maintenance. And in my opinion, it's not the end of maintenance or even the extended maintenance which will make the difference. What we see is that SAP is only releasing new functionality in S4. So they're not used, there's no new functionality in ERP. The only thing that you have is bug fixing. That's it. And so the customers that we migrated or converted or whatever you want to name it, they did that conversion because they wanted new functionality.
Yeah.
So I think the end date being 27 or even 2030, that's not the big factor. The big factor is if you want to move, if you want to do stuff, if you want to do new things with SAP, you have to go to S4.
And if you think about it, this was, all right, 1992 technology, guys. Things have changed. The world has changed. I mean, there's so many different things that businesses have changed based on trends or whatever. So they need to change over in order to be able to pivot and be able to move and keep alive, really.
Yes.
So let's talk.
I think if I may come in there,
yeah.
I think we shouldn't be too fixated on this 1992 thing. All right, the R3 product dates back to 1992. But if you look at how the technology has evolved since then, I'd say there is perhaps a little core, like the basic architectural concepts. Yes, they're still from 1992. They still follow the original design of the product. But apart from that, virtually everything has changed. So I'd be very, okay, I know what my colleagues are saying. Okay, we have to move forward for functional reasons, and the product is also technically much more powerful. But I would be hesitant to treat ERP or the NetWeaver platform, which underlies it, really as some relic from the 20th century. I think that's exaggerated.
I totally agree. I do agree with that. But I just want everybody to understand that it is a, we're changing. This is something totally different than what you have been experiencing, and it's something that's unique. And SAP really actually thought about, what is S4 and how do you get to S4? And so, let's see about, let's talk about what is the conversion difference from a release upgrade.
Well, the biggest
yeah. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just we're just putting an extension back.
No, the big difference is that there are a lot of, let me first start with that there are a lot of similarities with doing a release upgrade. Now, there are two things which make it a big difference than just a release upgrade. First of all, that is the simplification and product of one. It's not exactly a term. I cannot figure out the term anymore. What it actually means is that SAP over the years, and market rights, a lot of stuff has changed. A lot of stuff was added. But SAP ended up with a lot of applications which do more or less the same. One of them is credit management. And I'm not a financial specialist, but what happens if you go to S4, applications which are more or less related to each other are integrated and are disappearing. So it's the simplification which is the most important thing, meaning that a lot of functionality is converted to new functionality. That's one thing. The second thing is the SAP HANA database. The SAP HANA database, which has been around for quite some time, has made it possible for SAP to reduce the amount of tables an ERP system has, and also that is converted if you go to S4. So the big difference between doing an actual upgrade and a conversion is simplification. That's the most important thing, meaning that there's a reduced set of tables, there's a reduced set of functionality, and all the data customizing and custom code that you have needs to be adapted to that new reality. And that's the big difference.
So what do you think, what do you recommend for like enablers? How do you get there? What are the things that you need to do?
Well, the first thing that you need to do is, there are a couple of things that you can do. In my opinion, customers starting from scratch, the first thing that they should do is do a readiness check. A readiness check is a tool from SAP in which they will verify your current system and verify if that system can be converted to S4. So it will, for example, verify, do you have any add-ons which are not compatible? Do you have any business functions which do not exist in S4? Because you have to be aware, some business functions do not exist in S4. They may exist in the future, they may be on the roadmap, but not everything is possible in S4 today. The readiness check will verify your simplification, your data. It will verify, can this data be converted to S4? It will verify your custom code, because it's an SAP HANA database. It's simplification, a lot of tables will disappear. And so the readiness check will verify, is your customer development ready for the conversion? So the readiness check will give you a high-level overview of your system and how compatible it is with S4. I think that's the first thing that you need, that any company needs to do. Just to have an idea.
Have to be on the right version.
Well, you have to be on the right version, but that the readiness check will tell you that. So the readiness check will tell you everything that you need to know about your system. It's true, you need to be on an ERP 6.0 release at least to be able to convert. That is true. But apart from that, the readiness check is your first step.
Gotcha. Now, we have a question actually for you guys about this. Data validation during the conversion and available utilities like the LTFV and the BDV and DTV obsolete data cleanup during the event. Should I read that again? Can you please touch upon best practices around the data
I think
Data
it's about
validation.
yeah. I think this is about the simplification check.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yes. So the readiness check is a tool which is built on top of the simplification check. Now the simplification check can be used apart from the readiness check tool, and it will go much more in detail, and it will verify data really on data level if the data is compatible, yes or no. And the readiness check will also point to the different OSS nodes which are applicable to your system. And it will do so for finance, for logistics, for everything which is inside your system. And these programs that you are referring to are probably verification programs which are used, for example, in finance or in logistics.
Mm.
And
So
yes, you can
it's all
run
about a
these today.
simplification item check, right?
Yes, that's the one. And the advantage is you can run that already today.
And now where can we find this readiness check tool?
It's something that you need to install. It's a bunch of OSS nodes. There is always a bunch of OSS nodes. And so you need to install these OSS nodes, which will bring extra applications. You basically need to run two reports. There's a report which you should run in your development system. And there's another report which you need to run in your production system. In the development system, it will capture your repository, so everything that you developed yourself. The production system, it will capture your usage data. So what are you using today? And these two, the output of these two need to be uploaded in a portal of SAP. And that will give you a dashboard with all the results of the readiness check. There is a third tool that you can use, which I highly recommend, and it's the ABAP test cockpit, which will verify your custom developments. So the third tool you can run as well, and using the output of these three components, you load them up in the portal of SAP, and that portal will tell you exactly where the problems in your system are and the actions that you can already take today.
Can you do it multiple times, or is there a certain limit?
Yes.
You
can do it until you are completely bored with it.
Oh, really? That's good.
We even
I
have
was
customers
wondering about that.
No, we even have customers who do it with, let's say, the 22 release. And then they start adapting. They start, okay, we're going to migrate in 24. So they start adapting using the output, because you can do already a lot of stuff today. And then the 23 release will be available. They do the same check again to see with all the stuff that we did today, did we solve issues? Are there new issues which are coming up? So you can run it again and again.
That's so funny. So you fix things and then run the check and see where you're at. Do fix more. That's pretty cool.
In my opinion, the readiness check is one of the most important. Well, preparing is everything. And the readiness check is, in my opinion, even as important as doing the conversion itself. Because everything that you see in the readiness check will come back in the conversion.
So let me ask you this. Will the ABAP custom code migration cockpit, will that show you the, like, I wrote all this custom code, but in S4, it's already there?
No, it will not. No.
No, doesn't do that?
No, it doesn't. The only thing it does is telling you which code needs to be adopted. And it will also tell you what needs to be adopted. So it will point to the OSS node, which will explain you what has changed in SAP and what you need to adopt. Very important with the custom code. Very important with the custom code. Something that I forgot to mention is one of the first things that you need to do, even before doing the readiness check, is activating usage data. Because if you have a system of 92, there is a lot of stuff in that system which is still in there, which is not used. And so the readiness check doesn't know that it is not used. So you need to use the usage data to make sure that only stuff which is really used.
Yes, I've heard that you need to archive before you do anything. Get what you don't need.
Well,
Yeah, but I think we're talking more about, I think Bert is specifically talking, well, more talking about development.
Yes.
Like you've had a bunch of ABAP programs that someone developed 20 years ago that have been lying around, but either they're obsolete or they've never been put into production. You're not going to concentrate on adapting those to S4 because they're never going to be used anyway.
Yeah.
And the system by itself, without this usage data report, doesn't know that. So it will treat each program equally, whether it's used constantly 24 hours a day or never being touched at all. And that's why you need usage data to really filter out the things that you need to focus on and that you need to work on.
That makes sense. Who wants to drag a bunch of stuff you don't need?
Nope. And that can also give you the opportunity to throw that stuff away and get rid of it for good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it on a server somewhere. Might need it, never know.
Get rid of it.
It's like a pair of shoes. You never know, you might need it. So there's a question here called, is there any document or resource that we can refer to for the RICEFW objects?
Which objects?
RICE
The
FW.
developments, RICEFW.
Recess. Is that what it's called?
RICEFW, I think, yeah.
Yeah. We're not sure, but we'll get back to them.
But I think there the answer is really to work with the ABAP test cockpit to inventorize what you have, and indeed do not forget to add the usage data. I think we touched upon that already.
So can we combine the conversion with a migration to SAP HANA? Oh yeah. So when you're doing this, can you, and what if I'm on HANA already? Like, what if I'm like BW on HANA or something on HANA? You know, I've seen them do that. I've seen them put ERP on HANA, but they didn't go S4. So is it important to jump HANA and then go, or can you just go?
You can just go.
You can just go. In fact, technically the procedure is a combination of an upgrade and a database migration. But the tool, the driving process is the update tool, the software update manager. But the software update manager itself will detect, do I need to activate or do I need to run the database migration part of the process or not? So that's something the tool decides for itself, and which actually, in my experience, goes very smoothly. I mean, the very first time before I ran my first conversion, I thought, okay, this is having experience with the two sides, migration and upgrade. My experience was, okay, this is going to hit a wall. But no, to my surprise, I must admit, everything just went like clockwork.
You have to be more confident.
But there's absolutely no reason, and I think I would actively advise against moving to HANA first before moving to S4. I think by far the better method is just to do the transition, the modification in one go.
In fact, the only difference is that you will have more custom code objects to fix, because you have not only simplifications in your programs, but you also have HANA fixes, let's say. So on a custom code, it's just a little more work.
What about like these business one or business by design? Are they just, you gotta go green? I mean, can you convert those?
No.
You have to go green.
Just really wondering for the little guys.
I think for the little guys, I think this is the moment to think about public cloud.
Okay, so we have a question. Do we need to have process discovery report? Is it needed very much or not needed?
From the conversion principle, it's not needed. But for your business people, it's recommended because it will give them insights on the business value of S4 in your environment. So if you need to sell your project, it's strongly recommended.
Okay, so you heard that. So functional people, your business users, they really want to know about that.
Yes, they want to know the why. Why are we going to do this? Because
That's
the problem
true.
is, and that I just wanted to add to Mark's comment, the recommendation to do both at the same time, to go to SAP HANA and S4 in one go, is, in my opinion, user testing. Because if you go to HANA and then to S4, people need to test twice. And it's always the big problem with business users is that they are always very busy and they do not like testing. So if you can combine everything in one project, they will be much more willing to do the testing. And if you give them the discovery tool in which they can see you will actually get something new, at the end of the day, it might even improve their enthusiasm.
Okay, so here, let me get this straight. So if you are not on 6.0, if you are like earlier version of SAP, just go for it.
No. If you are earlier than 6.0, you have to go to 6.0 before you can go to S4. So 6.0 is the lowest release in which you can go.
In practice, I don't think that there are many pre-6.0 installations still around.
They actually have
a
met
very small minority, and they're out of support anyway.
Yeah, I know. So they should just go green completely. Those guys, instead of jumping all the way up. So if you are a 6.0 and you are on HANA, you just still jump. But if you're 6.0 not on HANA, just jump. Don't go to HANA.
No.
Just don't do that step. Just jump.
Yes.
Interesting. Oh, we got a question. Okay, so I would like to understand if you recommend to use the custom code migration feature of deleting unused objects when you only have 3 months of usage data collection from the original productive system. If so, and in case of need of recovering deleted custom objects, are they easy to recover?
I would not recommend to delete objects if you only have 3 months of usage data. Because you have to understand that from a customer development perspective, a program which is not converted to S4 will not stop the migration. So the conversion will work. There will be no red light saying, hey, you did not change this customer object, we will not continue. So you can do the conversion, and you can even adopt custom code after the conversion. So if you only have 3 months of usage data, in my opinion, you already have a lot because you have at least 1 month-end closing, maybe even a quarter closing. That's fine, but I do not recommend deleting objects because there's no year closing.
So like, so don't delete anything, right?
Depends. So there's 2 different things. From a custom code perspective, the migration or conversion will not fail. From a functional perspective on simplification data, if your simplification data is not consistent or incorrect, the conversion will halt. So it will not fail, but the tool will tell you stop. So that's a big difference. With custom code, you can just go. With customizations which are not compatible with S4, the tool will tell you stop.
So what is often overlooked when planning the conversion?
Ordering pizza at the end of the day.
Celebrating. You know, I always thought that you should have like a big, like, we're going.
I know what's mostly overlooked. The other systems in the landscape are often forgotten. The problem is that if you convert to S4, all the other SAP systems in your landscape need to be on a certain minimum level. And
What
that
about
is,
the dependencies of systems? Is that what it is? Yeah.
that is what I'm trying to say. So if you have a business warehouse system, if you have a process orchestrator somewhere, if you have manufacturing, if you have a portal, all these satellite systems need to be on a minimum level before you can go to S4. So we have seen customers who wanted to go to S4, which had to delay the project because first the business warehouse had to be on a certain level, or the process orchestrator had to be on a certain level before you can go. That's the most thing which is overlooked.
Interesting. Huh. So here's another question for you. What are the things we need to take care to make the S4 conversion better? What are the best practices we can assume to make S4 conversion better than a normal S4 conversion? I would say right people, get the right people at the right, doing the right jobs.
Yeah, certainly get the right people in the sense that I'm again talking technical process now. Again, in the sense that you should consider this as a complex upgrade that will also have specific demands on your knowledge of the database and the operating system. So if you don't feel comfortable doing upgrades, then don't make an S4 conversion your first one. Same for migration, as I say, you'll need to be familiar with the two areas. The second thing is to repeat the process enough times to be sure what's awaiting you when you do the production. Don't try to rush it like, okay, we're going to do perhaps one sandbox test and then up development, quality, production, and we're there, we do production. Do a sandbox environment, I would say, at least twice. So that first of all, you can sort out all the problems. My experience is that more than 95% of the problems that you will encounter in the conversion will show up in your sandbox migrations. So by the time you get to production, you don't want to find out, you don't want to run into something new that you've never seen before. So make sure that you do repeat the sandbox migration a sufficient number of times. Also, that will give you a good idea of timing. Make sure that you have that you know what's going to happen in terms of timing. When is the system going to stop? Because the uptime phase of the upgrade is over. How long do the different phases take? How long does the downtime take? That is also extremely critical information that you have to collect before you ever try to migrate a production system. So I'd say good know-how, experience, and time.
And don't you think there's a lot of little things?
And you need to buy the book.
Buy the book. But there's a lot of things that people forget. They're like, oh, I forgot about, oh yeah, because everything ties into SAP, if you think about it, to run your whole business and all the data's, interacting. So sometimes you're like, oh, well, totally forgot about them,
But that's also from a functional perspective with that sandbox setup, it's really helping because in fact, if you do that based on a copy of your productive environment, which we recommend, basically all the problems that you might expect during your conversion, you will already have fixed ones. And then if you take note of that, you know that for the next environments. And then I think, we talked about a readiness check. Don't just take that report as for granted and now we know everything because we have it in the SAP report. You really need to dig into this with the functional people to understand what is the impact of these simplification items. And in a lot of cases, it's just, okay, this we know, it's checked, we don't have a lot of work, but you always will have some simplifications that are in your context, specifically bringing an additional work. So that's in terms of preparation, a good understanding of the impact of simplification items for your environment is, I think, key to be successful.
So one of the questions actually has to do with this. It says, when we moved to the cloud, the readiness check was done. Now, when we move to S4, do we need to do the readiness check?
When did they go to the cloud? Because if there is a new release, I would redo the readiness check. Let's say that they moved in,
I would say,
I don't know, in May, April this year, and there is a new release in September, I would do the check again, because every release has new simplifications. The delta is each time smaller and smaller, but I would just do the readiness check again to make sure.
Oh, I agree.
Because if you already, if the OSS nodes are already implemented, the only thing that you need to do is you need to rerun the reports, upload the stuff in the portal, and that's it.
Yeah. So I liked this picture that you guys put in. Let's see if I can see. So it's about the system conversion scenarios is only applicable to on-prem systems, which has to do with, you know, how do you get there? Scenarios for a new implementation, what landscape scenario. So if you're doing green, brown, or data, or hybrid, I guess we'd call it, what type of systems can they do that with?
Well, I think the term on-premise should be explained a little bit more.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so what we mean is that you can do the conversion in an on-premise system, but also moving to the cloud. So the problem with the on-premise term is that SAP is using that term a little differently than normal people are using the term on-premise. So you basically have two.
So Mark and I think it's the servers in the basement. That's the on-prem term.
Yes, but you can do it. You can use the same. You can use the conversion to, let's say that you want to go to Azure or Amazon. You can use the same procedure. If you want to go to Rise with SAP, you can use the same procedure. You cannot use this procedure if you go to public clouds of SAP. Now that's a big difference, and the reason why this is confusing is because the term public cloud is used differently. SAP is using that term differently than other suppliers. For example, Azure is a public cloud. Amazon is public cloud. In an SAP context, it is seen as on-premise.
Interesting.
If SAP is talking about public cloud, what they mean is that it's their public cloud version. You can only go to their public cloud version using a greenfield. If you look at the Rise with SAP is your system running on a hypervisor, being Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud. You can use the conversion procedure to go to Rise with SAP.
So who is the, so what is like SAP HAC?
SAP HAC is the successor of, is the previous version of Rise with SAP.
So is that
it's also a system running on a hypervisor, Amazon, Google, or Azure.
So that is
the HAC.
So
So
that
you can
would
use
be considered private.
That would be considered private, correct?
Interesting. So
And you
only
can
thing
use
public would be Rise.
No, public is also Rise is also private.
But you could do, okay, so Rise is public or private.
No, Rise is always private. That's the big mind switch. So if you look at what Gartner would say about Rise with SAP, they would say it's a public cloud, because public cloud means that it's running on Amazon, Azure, or Google.
Right.
But from an SAP perspective, Rise with SAP is your system. You're the only one using that system.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
So they consider it a private system. The public SAP is probably also running on Amazon, Google, or whatever, but
Yeah.
that system is shared by many customers at the same time. So that's a public. So so you can use the brownfield if you want to stay on premise, if you want to move to Azure or whatever, Amazon or Google, or if you want to go to RISE, then you can use the conversion. If you want to go to the public version of SAP, you need to do greenfield.
Interesting. What about grow?
That's just
Grow is
commercial, blah,
public.
blah. In my opinion, that's just something commercially, but it's public.
We have been laughing about how SAP changes the names of everything under the sun. And it's like, wait a minute, what was that? You know,
They have been doing that for 30 years, if you ask me.
Oh.
So
First it was the acronyms, you know, everybody had, now it's the growing, rising, and whatever, reaching. That'll be the next one, reach. So we have a question here for you. What about process discovery and Signavio? Should we run process discovery or Signavio right before readiness?
I will tell you a secret. Process discovery is based on Signavio. It's the same tool.
You can only run it, but I saw something that was like, they named it something recently.
Yes. So what will happen as of 24, process discovery will be replaced by Signavio. That is what is going to happen in 24. Now, to be honest, process discovery is already Signavio. If you look behind process discovery is a Signavio system, which is running in the background.
Isn't that funny? But however, you don't have to own Signavio in order to run that report. Let's look at that first. Now, if you want to run Signavio process insights, you'd have to buy Signavio to do that.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother picture. And so that is that piece of the puzzle. And then I recently saw something where they're terming it online. SAP's trying to sell or push a free something, and it's process discovery with Signavio, which is the same thing that everybody's been doing all along.
Yes.
So don't worry, guys, it's the same thing, just they're renaming it again. Let's see, how about please help explain the conversion from ERP customer vendor master records to business partner master records. What does it take to accomplish this process?
Oh, I think we have a whole chapter on that, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's in chapter 8, if I'm not mistaken.
I think this is chapter 8, isn't it?
No, basically there's a whole bunch of OSS nodes that you have to install in order to get the correct reports. That will help you explain other data inconsistencies on your current vendors, masters, and customer masters that you need to fix first. Then you need to take a decision on number ranges for your business partners, how you will organize. And once that all has been done, you just launch the CVI to let's say, generate a business partner for every vendor or customer. It's one of the topics that you should consider to already start on, even if you don't have plans in the near future to move into S4, because there is quite some work to prepare properly.
I agree with that. So let me ask you another thing. Modification adjustment, how to avoid the data loss?
Know what you're doing.
Yeah, modification adjustment. first of all, is basically exactly the same as with a normal release upgrade. There's nothing different about the way you go about it. How to avoid data loss? First of all, there is a report. I don't recall the name by heart, but it's mentioned. It's in the book. It has the name with data loss in it, so you'll find it easily enough in the index. But that will identify any object in modification adjust, which is touched by modification adjustment, any dictionary object where you might run a risk of losing data.
I think it's rescue objects with data loss.
Right, okay, rescue objects with data loss. Now, looking back on like 20 years of upgrade experience, including S4, losing data in modification adjustment is not that easy. I mean, you really have to do some really dumb things.
You never know who you hire. You know, you might have some guy on the team who's like,
I'd be inclined to say that anyone who doesn't know SPDD well enough to avoid data loss shouldn't be doing S4 migrations in the first place. But
I will agree with Mark. Well, let me ask you this, Mark, is there any risk on connecting two S4 systems in different release versions? For example, one in 2022 release and another in 23. What do you recommend in this scenario?
You said connecting
two SAP S4 systems, different release.
Yeah, but what do you mean? What do you mean by connecting? If it's just like exchanging data,
maybe they want to put them together.
Merging systems, or
yeah, two S4 systems. Yeah, so two landscapes.
Merging two S4 systems. Yeah, that's a completely different project altogether. That's not a migration.
No, that's going to be that'll be a convert. Yeah, that would be a lot
transformation.
Simpler. It would be a lot simpler than what we're talking about.
That's not something you'll be able to combine with the migration. Migration is a system to system. You start with a NetWeaver based system and you end up with that same SAP, that same individual SAP system running on S4. But processes like merging systems, that's a completely different area. That's not related to the migration.
So
my two colleagues correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, you're right.
Well,
you're
I'm
right.
not sure what the question. I think, but I'm not sure what the question is actually.
They probably need to get 2022 into 2023 release. Is probably what they want to do.
Then they should just upgrade.
Yeah, that would be a lot simpler. Now, cluster tables, here's a good one. Cluster tables are handy for customer-based customization in ECC. Will they be available in S4 or will I have to do my own version of them?
Good.
It's a good question.
In S4, you no longer have cluster tables and you no longer have pool tables. Cluster tables and pool tables, now we're going back to 1992 again, they were things originally invented by SAP to work around certain limitations of the database systems as they then were. Like for instance, just an example, Oracle at that time, which was Oracle perhaps release 6, had a limitation on 1500 tables maximum in a database. Now, if you know SAP, it's got quite a bit more tables than 1500, even in its earliest versions. So what did SAP come up with to work around that? That was a concept of pool tables where many small mainly customizing tables are simply grouped to one physical database table. Clusters were a different invention, more for performance reasons, where you actually keep a master table and its dependent detail records together in one physical structure, so that the starting with the master record, you can access the detail records much more easily and much faster. In later releases of NetWeaver, those tables still exist, although really they would no longer be needed. And in S4 and in HANA, they've been abolished completely. So what will happen during the migration is a process called declustering for clusters and depooling for pool tables, where those tables will be converted into transparent tables. A transparent table is simply a database table where the structure in SAP corresponds to the structure in the database. Now, pool tables are not really a big problem most of the time, but cluster tables can be, and in most cases are, humongous. There are a few clusters like RFBLG, the accounting cluster, CDCLS, the change document cluster. Those tables can really be gigantic. In many cases, they are almost always among the largest tables in the entire database. Now, before the conversion, you have to run a tool which will actually inspect the pools and the clusters for possible inconsistencies. Because those inconsistencies, if they show up during the actual conversion, where the cluster table is changed to a transparent table, if they show up, then they would cause a corruption, they would cause a failure of the migration. So those tools have to run beforehand, and you must use the results of those tools to fix any inconsistencies if any exist. Again, and that's one of the reasons why I say always take your time and run the process repeatedly. Because of the size of those cluster tables, that process, that report can take a lot of time. We're talking, in the worst case, we're talking days. So make sure that you run that process on a copy of your production, as closely a copy of your production system, your production data as possible, so that you know A, how long it's going to take, and B, whether there are any inconsistencies.
Gotcha. Now, I will say that, wait, no, Mark, keep your thought. We need it. It's almost time for us to, it's been an hour and we're almost up. And so I'm going to let you finish your thought, and then we're going to hit the last topic. Okay. So,
yeah, I'm basically finished with this. So the short response is cluster and pool tables no longer exist in S4. The conversion will happen automatically during the migration, but you have to be prepared you have to create get out inconsistencies first.
Start creating your own cluster tables.
Yeah.
Okay, so our biggest, funniest laugh of the day. Well, we don't call it laugh of the day, but I'm considering Rise. Is this book still, is this relevant?
Yes, because the conversion is exactly this. Conversion is exactly the same.
It's S4, everybody. We're still talking about S4. If you're doing Rise, if you're doing on-prem, off-prem, whatever prem, greenfield, brownfield, whatever you're doing, converting anything over, this book is relevant. And also, if you have any other questions that you would like, we put them in the blog and we will give them to the authors, and we'll put a post of their answers of what that is. And also, please don't forget that these guys took a long time to write this book. So book club 15, you can put this in. That's my book club code. You get 15% off the book. So book club 15. And our goal, this is the best part. Our goal is to get these guys in the top 10. So we, everybody who usually talks with me gets their books all of a sudden, sure, I'm going to the top 10. So, all right, all you technical guys, all you basis guys, all you architects, come on, we got to get these guys in the top 10 and show them that we still are thinking about the conversions, and we are still out there. All you 7,000 global, 4,000 US companies that need to go to S4. And thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Bert. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, SAP Press. Yes, thank you, SAP Press. And cheers to all. And thank you again. And I'll probably see you again real soon. Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.